They said she was sleeping, but when they opened that drawer, they realized the truth. She wasn't sleeping. She was suffocating. Alone, in the dark, inside a motel dresser drawer. In May 2024, in a forgotten corner of Houston, Texas, deputies responded to a call at a Days Inn motel. It wasn't the first time they'd been to places like this. Drug overdoses, domestic disputes, suspicious activity. But this one was different. What they found inside room 215 would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The room was dim. The air thick with the smell of mold, cheap smoke, and something far worse. Jeremy Fancher, 38, stood near the bed, nervously rubbing his face. Destiny Campos, 22, sat frozen on the floor. Both looked dazed, like they hadn't slept in days. Scattered across the counter were glass pipes, used foil and plastic bag, clear signs of methamphetamine use. There was a 1-year-old boy crawling on the stained carpet, unaware of the horror in the room with him. But what caught the deputy's attention wasn't the toddler. It was a closed dresser drawer, sealed space where no child should ever be. When they opened it, they found her. 4-month-old Brookelynn, wrapped in a blanket, cold, stiff, silent, no heartbeat. Just a tiny body curled into the wood as if she'd been placed there.
Oh my gosh.
Like a shirt folded and forgotten. The officers froze. Even the most hardened among them couldn't believe what they were seeing. Who puts their baby in a drawer? At first, Jeremy claimed he'd gone out to get snacks. Said he came back, found her unresponsive, tried CPR, said he was panicked and didn't know what to do. But when asked why he put her back in the drawer, why he sealed it shut with towels, Destiny said she was sleeping, that she thought Jeremy was watching the baby. She said she had no idea the child was in the drawer. But her story cracked under the weight of truth. Because this wasn't the first time Brookelynn had been put there. A motel housekeeper came forward later with something that turned the investigation upside down. She said she'd seen the baby in the drawer days earlier, alive, crying, barely able to breathe. She took a photo to prove it. Showed it to motel management. She begged them to do something, but no one called police. No one stepped in. Brookelynn had been placed in that drawer over and over again to keep her quiet. The drawers were lined with towels to muffle the sound, to silence her cries. Her parents didn't want to be disturbed. They wanted to get high in peace. And so the baby was tucked away, again and again, till one day she didn't cry anymore. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death: positional asphyxiation. Brookelynn had slowly suffocated, her chest compressed, her airway blocked. She died gasping for breath, in a sealed space, with no help coming, no bruises, no blunt force trauma, just silence. It took more than a year for authorities to file charges. For months, Jeremy and Destiny lived their lives as if nothing had happened. They moved from motel to motel, dragging their toddler along. They smiled in photos, went out in public, never once turned themselves in. Brooklynn's great-grandmother, Luann, spoke out in heartbreak. She said they're living like nothing ever happened. Her voice cracked with grief, but no one seemed to listen. Finally, in June 2025, the arrests were made. Destiny was taken in first, charged with felony murder. Then Jeremy, arrested the next day, was charged with murder and injury to a child. But money can't fix this. No amount of legal action can bring Brookelynn back. No trial, no sentence, no tear-filled statement in a courtroom will erase what was done inside that motel room. You start to wonder how this could happen. How does someone look at their own child and decide that silence is more important than safety? That meth is more urgent than feeding her? That a drawer, an actual piece of furniture, is an acceptable place for a living, breathing baby? How did no one notice? Didn't motel staff call child services? Why did it take a year for charges to be filed when the photos, the witness statements, and the autopsy were clear? There are no easy answers, only questions that rot in the corners of your mind. Was this a case of evil? Of addiction gone too far? Of two people so lost in their own world that they couldn't see the horror of what they were doing? Or was this a system failure, poverty, drug abuse, lack of support? Broken families stacked on top of each other, until a baby girl became nothing more than a burden. Brookelynn didn't die in a flash. She didn't die in an accident. She died slowly, quietly, and worst of all, she died knowing no one was coming. She cried, she gasped, she waited, no one came. Her story isn't just about two bad parents. It's about everyone who looked the other way. The motel staff who ignored the signs, the neighbors who heard the screams and closed their doors, the family members who suspected something was wrong and stayed silent. It's about a society that let her disappear into a drawer without making a sound. You want to believe this is rare. Things like this don't happen often, but they do. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are children in motels, cars, tents ignored, silenced, treated like they don't matter. Their cries get quieter every day, and sometimes they stop altogether. Brooklyn's death isn't just a tragedy, it's a warning. A mirror held up to all of us. What would you do if you heard a baby crying in the next room? Would you knock, would you call, or would you look away? Because silence kills and monsters. They don't always wear masks. Sometimes they look like mom and dad. Sometimes they hold their baby with one hand and a meth pipe with the other. Sometimes they smile for the camera, knowing what they've done. And sometimes they put their child in a drawer. Brooklyn's story should never be forgotten. It's not because it's shocking, but because it's real. Because this happened. Because if we don't talk about it, if we don't remember her, it will happen again. She was 4 months old. She never got to speak, never got to take her first steps, never got to be held the way a baby deserves. And the place she died was smaller than a crib. It was a drawer. And that should haunt all of us.